Hi everybody, welcome back once again to the Eastfield Gunroom YouTube channel. You will notice we're not in the gunroom today, we're actually out doing a live test with the infamous all-new Beretta SL2. We've been very lucky to get our hands on one for a couple of days, so we're going to have a shoot, let's see what all the fuss is about, and then we'll have an in-depth review after that. Here we are, we're outside in the fantastic autumn fresh air. We've come to Garlands Shooting Ground, which is not too far from the Eastfield Gunroom itself, where they've got a fabulous sporting layout, ABT, DTL, ski, as well as a full-bore rifle range. They do have some fantastic sporting events here, so if you haven't been down, do come down and check it out. Right, the Beretta SL2. This is probably the biggest news in competition shotguns for 20 odd years. Now, an interesting point I want to make is that a lot of people say to me about Beretta shooters and Beretta Olympic shooters, they say, Matt, why don't they shoot with SO5s? Now, the reason for that is despite the fact that the SO5 is the premium competition sidelock that's manufactured by Beretta, has been for a number of years. If you haven't seen the video, we have done a review, so do check that out. Is that ultimately, because those guns are handmade, they come with the foibles, if you like, of anything that is handmade. And, you know, sometimes you have potential Achilles heel whereby if you're a competition shooter, you need something that's going to go out every single day and perform regardless. So that is where the SL2 comes in. So the SL2 is a synergy of all the great aspects of the Beretta DT11 competition gun. We've looked at it many, many times. It's won hundreds and hundreds of medals globally. And of course, the heritage and the tradition of the SO series. What Beretta have done is they've combined the two to produce what many people have described as a hyper gun. It's certainly very, very different. Even just taking it out of the box, the presence this gun has is absolutely sensational. So let's have a look at all the features of this gun, as we always do in these reviews. We have just shot it. I was desperate to pull the trigger, but stay tuned and I'll tell you all about my shooting experience of this particular shotgun later on in the review. So, the SL2, this gun has probably got more presence than any other shotgun I've seen for, like I said, 20, 30 years. When you first glance at it, it's kind of the gun that broke the mold. You know, you look at any gun that's been manufactured from any mainstream manufacturer, Beretta, Browning, Miracle, Perazzi, Krieghoff, the last 20, 30 years, they all have a particular look about them, they all have the same kind of style, whereas this gun absolutely is nothing like the norm. You know, the lines of it, just like I said, the best word I can use is the presence of it. It just looks different. It looks space age, if you like, not dissimilar to when they first brought out the 694 and people were a bit, oh, that's a bit different, the action shape, etc. But this gun just goes to the next level. Like I said, it's a synergy of the SO series in terms of the lockup. It takes the lock-in system from the SO10, which means that it hasn't got the Kirsten bolt system of the DT11. But what they have done with it being a competition shotgun, they have retained the detachable trigger group from the DT11 series with the V-springs, because ultimately, or so to say initially, this gun was designed with the Beretta Pro shooters in mind. It was all about what they needed to go to that next level in terms of competition, in terms of competing. So what they've done is they've taken the reliability features of the DT11, i.e. the detachable trigger mechanism. So they've got the maintenance aspect covered, they've got the security aspect covered, and also, like I said, from a reliability point of view, should anything go wrong, like a little tiny spring break, it's very, very easy to just take it out, whip it out and fix it. So the action itself is reminiscent of the old 682 Gold. It's that grey stone finish. But what Beretta have done with this, I mean, let's not forget, this gun has been several years in the making. They will have spent millions and millions of euros bringing this gun to market, because whenever Beretta get an idea, they go to the nth degree to make sure that before that gun is launched to the general public or launched to the shooting world, that it is good as it can be. And what they've done with this is they have focused on the whole anti-glare thing. So everything that you can see, which is not this black chrome, the trigger guard, the top lever, everything has got these laser micro dots, if you like, engraved on it. And the idea is that it sucks and it absorbs all the light in, so there is zero glare whatsoever. Because let's look at this from the point of view from a competition shooter, you need all those edges for those extra one or two targets. So the shape of the action is very interesting, it's very eye-catching, it's very extreme, if you like. What Beretta did is They looked at the DT11, and what they did with this gun is they were able to produce a narrower profile action at the top because they didn't use the Kirsten bolt locking system. So what they then did is they moved the weight to the bottom of the action, because the idea behind that was to, with the help of gravity, increase, or I should say improve, the balance of the shotgun between the hands. Aside from the black chrome and this crazy anti-glare stuff, which is kind of Cerakote-ish, I would have thought, apart from the fact that this top lever and also the back of the action has got these, like I said, micro molecule laser engraved thingy bobs. Pierce top lever. Now, I've been to the Beretta factory 30 or 40 times, and the pierce top lever was always kind of an option you could maybe have on a DT11 or an S0 so I think it's nice that they've brought that along with the famous Trident arrows. And also it's not dissimilar to a DT11 in that it's a very solid, very positive, it's a big paddle, it's easy to get hold of. So again, they've just thought of everything. So interestingly enough, this is actually labelled as a trap gun, so because of that, it has got a non-selective trigger. If you buy a sporting version, that will have a selective trigger, and the skeet version, again, non-selective trigger. Just while I'm talking about that, I will just touch on the specifications that are available. So the skeet gun is available in 29.5 and 30 inch. That itself is absolutely crazy, but it shows the level of competition shooter that these guns are aimed at, you know, where we're talking about half an inch making an enormous difference. In trap, they are available in 30 inch fixed choke, and sporting, they're available in 30 and 32 inch multi-choke, a new choking system which we'll come on to shortly. This particular gun is interesting because it's labelled as a trap, but it's got a sporting rib and factory multi-choke, so I believe this is essentially what will be classed as a custom order. So non-selective, if we look at the safety catch itself, we've got these dots here, which looks a bit like a floor mat in a doctor's surgery with these little dots on like rubberized. But again, the idea with that is all about grip. If you're a competition shooter shooting all over the world, out in the elements, different types of weather, the last thing you want to be doing is playing around with your selector to get your trigger out for some reason, and you can't do it because you've got no grip and your hands are wet through. So the trigger itself is identical in terms of the mechanics of it to a DT11. It works in exactly the same way. The only thing they've actually changed in line with the action shape is the design, the physical shape of the trigger. Comes out the same. So to take the trigger out of the SL2 is exactly the same as the DT11. It's absolute child's play. If you haven't seen it done before, it's on 2 or 3 of our videos, so do check those out. So you push the safety catch all the way forward, top lever across, you'll hear a little click, and then you can release the trigger group. Now, if you looked at that without me holding onto that crazy shape at the bottom, you would instantly recognise that is a DT11 trigger group. There is no difference, particularly in terms of the working parts. Now, interestingly enough, if I turn the gun over now, you'll get a real feel of the difference in the shape, the taper of the action, which I talked about at the start, making it narrower in terms of the action frame, but having to change the weight distribution and put that further lower down the action. Adjustable trigger, they've covered that in, looks like that DLC coating, but it might just be some kind of blue, not entirely sure. Adjustable 3 positions, same as a DT11. On the underside, we have got SL2 made in Italy, and whereas they would normally have everything finished in this Azzurri blue, like on a DT11, like on a 694, they have chosen this very sleek kind of matte finish black to complement the rest of the very dark storm kind of look of this gun. One more thing to touch on with the action is, of course, the idea behind these slim bits at the top is all to do with enhanced vision. I understand that when Beretta spoke to all their pro shooters and they grilled them massively, you know, what do you want from a gun? What can we change? What can we make better? What will give you the edge? The idea was a lot of them came back and said, look, sometimes we can't quite see what we're looking at, and we just need you to slim the whole thing down where possible to increase our vision. So onto the barrels. So this particular gun is a 32 inch trap specification. We've got the SO2 locking system underneath with the lugs, and let's not forget that all Berettas, they always use polychrome steel in the production of the barrels, which obviously makes them more impervious to rust, stops them pitting, and of course in line with the crazy modern space age finishes and textures they're using on the SL2. Again, that will just give the gun a longer life, it will increase the longevity, it will make it more durable in all of the elements, which, as we've discussed, if you're a competition shooter, you didn't get a choice when you're going to train, you have to go out and shoot. Starting at the back end, it's a Beretta. It looks like a Beretta. It is a Beretta. It's got the SO10 style ejectors, obviously the SO10 lump. This particular gun has got 1590 weight barrels, probably less if you bought a Sporter, probably 1540, 1550, something like that. Trap barrels do tend to be heavier overall though. Now, what Beretta have done which is probably the most revolutionary thing in terms of barrel technology, is they've actually gone backwards. So we've gone from an 18.6 taper, for example, on the DT11, back to 18.4 nominal board. Now what they've done in addition is they have got what's called a triple forcing cone, which they've come out with a 430mm forcing cone, and in addition we've got the parallel bit in the middle, and then we've got these absolutely crazy long chokes that are 20mm longer than a standard Optima HP choke. These barrels are Stelium Pro X. This is a new barrel profile. Normally Stelium Pro obviously relates to the length of the forcing cone. It's not quite the same with this because we've got nominal bores, a triple forcing cone, a parallel bit, and these super crazy long chokes. The idea behind that, of course, is to absolutely minimise any kind of felt recoil for the competition shooter. Barrels are ventilated, rib is ventilated. This particular gun has got a 10x8 tapered top rib, which of course we're very, very used to seeing. If you did have a trap version out the box, I understand they're 11mm parallel. And we've also gone back to the 1990s with this kind of strip red foresight bead, which I can remember off the original 686s and 682s. Again, probably input from the Beretta Pro shooters. So to finish off with the barrels, we've got a nice bit of engine turning. Like I said, to recap, this is a 1590 gram set of barrels, 3-inch chambers and steel shot proofed. So naturally, we've just spoke about the weight of the barrel. So what does the gun weigh? The gun in its raw form, there's got absolutely 0 weights in the stock. I've even left it with the standard pad as it came to me, is £8 15 ounces. Now, you might think that's probably a little bit heavy. I would say they've probably taken that weight from the SO series, because if you've ever picked up a 32-inch SO5, they are quite a lump, which again, from a recoil reduction point of view, is where it's got to be really. So balance-wise, as you would expect, factory balanced, bang on the hinge pin. So Woodwork, to tie in with this new action profile, this new action design, obviously they've had to change the stocking, the heading accordingly. So you've got this very, very slim bit here, raised up to the top towards the top lever. And again, people have said it before, it is a bit F1-like. It is sort of out there in your face. It is a non-conformist design of a shotgun. I would imagine that there will be as many people that are not a fan of the design of this as are a fan. As standard, the gun comes supplied with Class 4 woodwork, which is the same as an SO5, SO6 EEL, and same as an SL3. This particular piece of wood has got everything you want in a piece of wood for a competition shotgun. It has got completely straight grain, so in terms of a recoil point of view, we've talked about it before, you don't want fiddly stuff here in the head. It's all about keeping it parallel, keeping it direct, so what you can do is you can then control the recoil between the back of the action and the shooter's shoulder. So nicely figured, this is a standard oil finish. There's a couple of different finishes available. I would imagine from a competition point of view, most shooters would opt for this natural oil. So it's inoffensive matte finish, B-fast system. In terms of the adjustable comb and also the barrel weighting facility, there are currently no weight in this gun whatsoever, and it weighs £8 15 ounces. Palm swell, which is not offensive in any way, shape or form. It's not massive, it's not big, it's not chunky. I do think the radius between the trigger and the bottom of the pistol grip feels a little bit small. Might want it a little bit bigger, but that's down to personal preference. And of course, these guns are available with a custom stock facility, which we'll talk about shortly. So to the back end, microcore recoil pad, been around for years, it works well. Interestingly enough, one thing I would say is I've just shot this gun with a microcore recoil pad that's fitted. Doesn't fit me at all, it's way too short, but it didn't really do anything in terms of adding any extra recoil to either my shoulder or my face, which in itself is very impressive. Checkering, we've got a new style, completely hand cut, not seen this before. Nice style, quite sleek in its appearance, not in your face like some modern guns where they have to just go over the top with these really, really chunky designs. So it's very, very subtle, I would say, which isn't really the same as the rest of the gun. In terms of actual stock dimensions, if you have a trap stock, you're going to get 10mm of drop. So there's 3 options. You can have 29-39, 32-42 or 34-44. Standard sporting dimensions are 36-56. I think the B-fast at its lowest setting is something like 39-49, something like that. As I said before, because of the level of shooter that this gun is aimed at, I would imagine for people that want to get the absolute best out of their shooting and their shooting experiences, that they would probably go for a custom stock on the gun anyway. Forend design, really like this. It is so comfortable to hold. You look at it and you think, oh, it's a bit slim, I like a beaver tail, maybe it's not quite the same, but ergonomically it just fits the hand perfectly. I'm sure there's other options in terms of the forend, but out of the box, Beretta have got this absolutely spot on in my opinion. The checkering's really good. I love the way it tapers. There's a lot of tapers on this gun. If you look at the design of the forend, the design of the groove, again, that taper's not the norm. If you get a standard beaver tail with a groove in, it's usually parallel. So again, they've really thought outside the box with that particular part of this shotgun. So onto the box, we get this really smart, almost looks like kind of brushed aluminium, but it's in this dark graphite finish, complements the action really well. You've got the two tones, the black Trident logo, the black leather handles, the black locks. So the whole thing kind of ties in with this light dark image, which is really cool. And of course, really different from anything else that most manufacturers do. So we open it up, and inside it looks like the interior of a Bentley. It's got this lovely plush suede kind of Alcantara stuff with an orange piping. The orange is interesting because of course it takes away from the fact that the gun is kind of this dark, sleek wolf in sheep's clothing, but they've gone a bit crazy here, but that's obviously Beretta for you. It certainly looks the part, and we've got this nice leather PB, which is the premium Beretta logo in the top here by the handle to complement the nice leather bits around the actual handles. Now, when Beretta launch a gun of this magnitude, of this price point, in my opinion, in the past, they've gone a bit over the top. The box that came with the SL3 was beautiful, it was handmade, but it was just not really, other than from a presentation point of view, very practical. Let's not forget this is a competition shotgun. It's going to be going through airports, it's going to get chucked about, it's going to get knocked. It has to be functional and it has to be practical, and I think they've got it dead right. So as you can see, we've got our little goodie box, Beretta logoed on the top as usual. And inside we have got three, obviously there's two in the gun, of these ridiculously long chokes. And they are, like I said, 20mm longer, which of course is all down to reducing that felt recoil, which was one of the main, I would imagine, goals with this particular design, this platform. So 5 of those. You get plastic snap caps. If I'm honest, I think that's a bit of a poor touch. Yes, you do get them with other Berettas, but I think with a gun, again, of this profile, you know, they do make nickel snap caps. Would have been a few more euros, just stick some on them. Standard choke key, and then of course we move on to the bits that you would get with a DT11. Let's not forget they've got the same internals. So we've got spare firing pins and springs, and then we go to the BFAS system, the stop balancing system, and we have the set of WAD style weights which go in just underneath the stock bolt. Screwdriver to adjust the trigger, 3 positions as we've already looked at, and then finally you've got your plastic spacers for the adjustable comb, just as a reference point for when you're removing it for cleaning, that kind of stuff. Important Allen key for adjusting the stock. Even more importantly, in my opinion, we've got the stock bolt tool for obviously tightening the stock, making sure it remains tight. And then we've got this handy little pouch, which is interesting, which is not a mobile phone pouch, and neither is there a little iPad in there. We've actually got the book of words, the ubiquitous Beretta iron-on skeet vest badge, and then of course a barrel sticker to go with it as well. You'll notice from older videos I did, like on the 682 Gold, they've gone away from the Team Beretta on the barrel stickers because everybody claimed to be in Team Beretta. To finish, barrel and sock sleeves and 80 million pieces of foam. Right, enough of this waffling, let's go and shoot it. So we've had a really good look at the Beretta SL2. We've looked at the features of the gun, we've looked at the specifications, but what I want to do now is I want to shoot it. I want to see exactly where that technology and exactly where that precision, all that money in the R&D has been spent. So for testing, we've got some 28 gram Ely Superb 7.5, quite a fast punchy cartridge, because what I really want to see is I want to see what the felt recoil is like on this SL2. So the first 4 shots, really interesting experience, difficult to explain, so smooth to shoot. The technology in those barrels, I've shot a DT11 for quite a few years now. That is a super smooth shooting shotgun. This, on first impressions, is even smoother. So a few more shots, and in terms of recoil, this gun is sensational. It doesn't kick me at all. It doesn't fit me. I've put the comb up a little bit. I haven't got the right length pad on. So with a longer microcore, I'll get even less recoil, maybe a bit more weight in the stock for me. For an 8-pound, 15-ounce gun, it really, really moves well. It's effortless to shoot, really, really smooth. I like it. So one of the big things about the SL2, one of Beretta's feathers in the cap, so to speak, is the fact that the whole vision of the shooter is improved because of the way they've slimmed down the action in certain areas. And it works, there's no question. I don't feel like I'm really searching for the clay. It's almost like it's laser guided. Another thing is the forend felt really, really good when you just mount it and swing it. When you shoot it, you just don't feel it. It feels like an extension of my arm. This gun is something else. So to summarise, this gun initially came out as the launch edition nearly well over 2 years ago now. We hoped we were going to see the production gun a lot sooner than we have. It's now finally, thankfully, come to the UK. For me, it's certainly one of the biggest things in competition shotguns for 20 plus years. There's no question that Beretta have thought of every single facet that a competition shooter requires from a gun, a demanding competition shooter. This gun has to be shot to be believed. I didn't know how impressed I would be until I pulled the trigger. I hate recoil, I'm very susceptible to it. This gun is sensational. So before we wrap it up, big thank you to the guys here down at Garlands for letting us come and use these fantastic facilities. The DTL layout's been perfect for trying this out, which is obviously a trap gun, so it's in its natural environment here. We have also shot a bit of sporting because pulling the trigger on this gun is so much fun. We've just prolonged the filming. Thank you to the guys at GMK for letting me borrow the gun. I appreciate this gun is massively in demand, so I am very grateful to be able to have this for a few days. If you've got any questions about this particular gun, the Beretta SL2, or anything shotgun related, do feel free to drop me an email. Details are on the screen. Don't forget to check out the website. If you have enjoyed this video, do give us a like, do hit subscribe, and do recommend us to your shooting friends, and I will see you next time.